Hello everybody, hello. So today's going to be a project follow along. I'm going to wait for some people just to get in here and filter in before I get started though. Hello everyone. Get out the pop-up chat here. We have a very early live stream today because I'm busy here in a bit, so I have to knock this out very quickly. Daughter has to go to the doctor. All right, awesome stuff. Okay, so we're just gonna get started now, and so what we're doing today is I'm going to be redesigning this right here. This is an embedded media player that someone had sent me that they had designed, and my goal is to go ahead and redesign it here in Adobe XD, just to make it overall look better, but also use the new prototyping abilities of Adobe XD that was just released a few days ago, which are component states and hover animations and stuff like that. So if you haven't done this sort of thing yet, which, you know, I can't blame you if you haven't, it's only been there a few days, it can be tricky if you're trying to do more advanced sort of things outside of just a button hover or something like that, because you can really do other things beyond that, but they're a little bit tricky. So I've been spending some time trying to figure it out, and that's what we're going to be doing. So the first part is just going to be redesigning, and then the second part is going to be the prototyping. So let's go ahead and get started with that. So I apologize if I don't read all of your questions here, because I'm very pressed for time. So the first thing I noticed about this design, which is the before one, is the one thing that stands out real bad is these large play buttons, the two pause buttons right next to each other for the different track listings. These buttons are really unnecessarily large, so that's one thing I'm going to be addressing big time. The placement of the 0-1 and the 0-2 for the track listings, and also putting parentheses in the duration next to the song title. I think we can compartmentalize that stuff and design that differently, and you'll see what I mean when we do that. The logo that they had, I actually changed up the logo because they didn't want their branding there, so it kind of looks somewhat similar to this. There's also a symbol. I didn't do that though, but we're going to improve that as well and simplify it greatly. So let's go ahead and get started with this. So what I'm going to do is, first of all, I'm going to take, let's see here. I want a lot of space to work. They actually sent me an Adobe XD project with this, and this is all the artboard size was. When you want to visualize some sort of component, this isn't just like a web page, it's just like an embedded component, a UI element. It's nice to have a lot of white space. So I'm using a 1920 by 1080 artboard, and we're just going to give it a very light gray color, and I'm planning on making it mostly white as well, so it'll kind of just frame it better. So let's go ahead. I'm going to start right here and just hold Alt and drag out a rough size of what I want the video or the embedded player to look like. So I'm going to get rid of the borders. So one thing I noticed here, they had a lot of borders. There's borders on the outside. There's borders between a lot of different elements. Borders here, here, here. Borders, old school. We don't want borders, so for the most part. So I'm choosing not to have a border on the outer container. For this part, like the header portion, we can see there's a lot of white here, separated by a lot of borders. I think we can encase this part up here just to separate it visually from the rest by using like a darker blue for the background and then white for the logo, and simplify the logo as well. So that's what I'll do. I'm going to Control D to duplicate that. We have a bar up here, kind of like a nav bar, and I'm going to choose just like more of a mid-desaturated dark blue. We'll go ahead and add that to the color swatches. Now, the name here is Yo Mixtapes, so let's get that on here. We want, for this, I think I'll use maximum contrast, so that would be white. Yo Mixtapes, yo. So stupid. That's my name, I came up with it. We'll do, of course we're going to do Montserrat for that. What are you thinking? So we'll scale this down, and we're just going to center it. We're not going to put the .com. That's more like an old school thing, Web 2.0 thing to do with logos. And also a slogan. We're going to get rid of the slogan because we don't have much space for that anyways. So we'll go ahead and we will bold it. I'm just going to bold this part right here because that's kind of had to have their logo, their original logo anyway. So Yo Mixtapes, that's it. That's all I'm going to do. Here, let's move this over. So if we could compare them, this is mine and this is theirs. Cluttered up, mine's simplified. It's a win. All right. So we're also, I think this is a little bit too wide. So let me take these two and drag them in. Okay. So now we're going to have that. They have a share link up here, you know, which is fine. It's a tad bit large for my liking. So what we'll do is I have some assets already prepared off on a different screen. So I'm just, I got this one from iconfinder.com. So that's what we're going to do for our share icon. Same thing. All right. Now we have this section right here. This section, if we're just talking about the thumbnail, the song title, the band name or the musician name, whatever the group name, whatever you want to call it, the tags and the upload date, this part isn't actually that bad. So I'm not going to diverge too much from that part. What we'll do here is I'm going to copy just this element right here. Now notice what I'm doing with the white space or the padding inside of these containers. I have a good amount of padding inside of these containers, and you can see it's pretty much even all around. You want an even amount of white space from the top and left and bottom of your different containers. Their white space was very minimal, so things feel a little bit crammed. It's also uneven. If you look at where this column starts and then this over here starts, these minute details really affect the overall flow of the layout. Okay, so after that, we're going to put in the song title, and it's white so we can't see it. So let's go ahead and I'm just going to make that black. I think we'll make it bold. So the song title is kind of the most important thing. What am I doing? Oh yeah, bold. All right, and probably enlarge that size pretty decently. So it's commanding the most, I guess you could say, attention to the eye being this big. We'll duplicate that for the group name, and this is called Future. So I'll just go with the blue right around there. And we'll make it a little bit smaller. So we're at like around 19 or 20. I'm also going to keep the way they've done the tags. I think this is fine, the tags right here. Now I'm going to space things out slightly differently. So we have Future here. What was one of the tags? DJ Esco. I think we're going to make this one regular because tags aren't anywhere near as important. And I have this at size 14, which you pretty much don't want to go less than that. We'll draw this out. Let's get out our layers. Put that beneath it. We want the border color to be the same color as the text. Oh wait, that was the fill. Sorry about that. So here we go. There we go. And we can also bevel these a little bit, just like they did in the original. So I'm not diverging from the original too much. All right, so I'm going to take both these elements. We'll just group them. Make sure it's center aligned. You know, everything needs to be aligned correctly. This one, I'm going to say free bands, whatever that is. We're going to take this, extend it out, and then there's our two tags. May want to make this maybe like 21. Okay. Okay, next we have the upload date. Pretty much fine with that, how they have it. However, there's not enough contrast, so I guarantee it would fail the contrast test. All right, that's good right there. We're going to make this not bold, so it's going to be regular. And again, the upload date isn't all that important. So this is around where you want to be for your contrast. I'll show you a plugin to make sure that you're nailing your contrast. Again, this will be like 14. And that Adobe XD plugin is called Stark. I covered it already, Stark Contrast plugin. I'm going to do the Rapid Contrast Checker, and we could see mine passes. So these are all good. It's 7.21. We could actually go a little bit less for that, and it's at 5.67. So that's pretty good right there. This is way too light for that color of that font or that type right there. All right. So next up, what else do we have? We have a score, some sort of score here. So I made an icon beforehand. Instead of just saying score, we can put it some sort of icon there. That way it makes this whole area less wordy, which is a good thing. So I'll paste this right here. I'm not sure if a lightning bolt kind of thing really makes the most sense, but that's what I went with anyways. I think we'll take this future, we'll duplicate it. We'll put a score in here of like 26,700. Oops, Gary, put your fingers in the right place. 752. That's good. We'll go ahead and make it the same color as the bolt. There we go. And scale it down. Right around the same size. Actually, they had theirs a little bit bigger than mine, so I think I'll scale it up. Probably the same size as Future, which is 21. So actually, I'm not sure if I want to go that large. I think this is good right here. Okay. Okay, so now we have this section. I think mine, if we compare them, I'm going to kind of come out here and scope here. Yeah, this is pretty much almost the same exact thing here. The part that's really going to diverge is this part over here and the stuff underneath. So let's continue on with that. So again, I'm not going to be having these borders, as you can see. Don't want these borders. They're just unnecessary. And the play buttons are really large. The thing I'm going to start with first is the track numbers. Again, we have three different things happening here in one text field. That's the track number, the track, the group. We don't need to know the group because the group's listed up here. So I'm going to omit or delete or not have the group name, which is Future, and just only put the track name. And then also the third element is the track duration. We're going to change things up and really design that stuff better, so it's not all part of the same field and it has a little bit design difference between them. So now we're going to put in 1 for the track number. I'm going to put the track number first, which to me makes a little bit more sense. For now, right around there is probably I'm probably going to go like 16 or so for that. Then after that, we're going to have a play icon. All right, so they have a play icon as well. I'm going to use a circular play icon for myself. So we're going to come right around here. We're going to give it a fill. The color, yeah, we're going to use this blue color that we're using up here. You really only want to stick to a certain palette. You don't want to go too many different shades of colors when you're working in your UI design. I'm just going to do a quick play button right there, and I'm going to drag this out a little bit further. Trying to see if I have it aligned up pretty good. Yeah, I do. Okay, so we're going to take that, we're going to group that. All right, next up, now I may end up, changing the size of all this, but right now I'm just getting the basic points done. All right, so now for this section, we're going to do the track title. All right, so Purple Rain intro, we're going to make this regular. All right, and for the size, I think we will do, yeah, 16's fine. Okay, we'll make these not gray because these are pretty important, so we'll make these black. I'm going to move things out and down a little bit here. Might space things out just a tad bit further. And then we will also, let's see here. I think there's a little bit, we could bring things in just a tad bit here. So all right, so, but yeah, I think we're going to bring things in actually a lot more. just to work with the scale properly. Probably bring this up. Okay, that's better. Now we're going to take this and we're going to put the track length over here, designed differently. It's going to be bold. So where am I bold at? Right here. And it's going to be like a darker gray here. Probably the same exact styling, actually. I can delete this as this one. So we'll put this over here. So it's going to be 0, 0, 5, 5 for the track length. All right, right around there. I'm going to make it smaller, I think, maybe like 14. Actually, that doesn't make sense. We'll leave it there. All right, now it looks good. Okay, so we went from this with these large play buttons, kind of not a lot of white space, to the track length all in the title, the track title and the duration all in one area, just to this where we have everything, all four of those elements are designed differently for the most part. All right, so now we're going to have probably 4 or 5 more tracks that are going to be listed like this. But I want a hover effect on this to use and demonstrate the new component states. So when you hover over this whole track area, it's going to show it in a sense. So what we'll do is, let's see here. We will create a background, just so it's the same size as this. I can just duplicate the background, bring it in. And we're going to give it a the hover color. So I think I'll make like that. By the way, I also want to take this, the overall container, the first layer we created. I'll also do a very subtle shadow with a big blur to sort of separate it from the background just a bit. All right. Okay, so now this is probably what we're going to use for our background container or so. You want to make sure all your content inside is vertically aligned, centered into this container. Now this is going to be what it looks like when you're hovering, but I created it first now because now we're going to create, before we create a component, we're also going to do a secondary embedded component on the play icon so that when a person clicks it on the prototype, it'll switch to a play icon instead. So let me do that real quick. So what we'll do is, this is a group currently containing the ellipse and the actual play icon. Instead of making a pause button, I think I'm just going to make a sound icon button, or rather import one that I already created off screen. So let's see here. Let's see if I can get this in here properly. The opacity is 0. Okay, that's not what I wanted. 1 second, sorry. Well, you know what? I could just design this from scratch. I'm going to move over temporarily that area, and I'm going to design a little speaker icon. This is always very risky when I'm demonstrating with the pen tool. Now the fact that I screwed that up, I'm not too concerned. I put an extra anchor point, but it's perfect, pretty much. I just want to drag this out. There we go, that's our play icon. Let's fill that in. This will be with our blue color. And then I want to do little waves, sound waves, maybe just 2 of them that come out of it. Okay, hit escape. We'll make these like 1.5. Yes, you can use points in your strokes. Very cool. We'll round that off and we'll make the border or the color the same. So now what we'll do is we'll take this and we'll duplicate it. Control D. I'm just holding Shift and Alt and dragging out to make it larger. And that's our play icon. Yay. Okay, so we're going to group that. And again, we want it to be roughly probably, you know, the right size when we get it in there ultimately. And it'll be like right here behind it. So what I'm going to do is get that in position. I'm going to hide just temporarily this part. That's what it's going to transition from and to. So we're going to take this and put it underneath Notice I'm not naming my layers. I definitely should do that, but I'm kind of pressed for time. So we're going to take both group 27 and group 28, which is our two icons, and we're going to right click and choose Make Component. All right, so now under Make Component, let's see here. We have our default state, which this is our default state. We want to add a new state, and that's going to be play, we'll call it. And then under play, we will open up the component. We're going to hide the button or the play button. So we just take the opacity down, and there we go. That's all we need to do. So now if we go back to our component, we can see we can go from our default state, which is to play, and then at play, it switches to, you know, currently playing or whatever, and that's good. So now if we go back to prototype, we can hook this up. So we go to default state, we hit plus for the interaction, and then choose transition and no animation, because it's just going to be a quick snap of a transition there. And if you click play, we add a tap animation, which goes back to the default state, and that will be transition of none for animation type. So now if we go and play this, it doesn't work. Come on, dude. Seriously? All right. So let's figure out why it wasn't working. Oh, I just saw. Oh, I know why. This happens all the time. If you don't choose the destination, it's going to clear out the whole interaction you just added. So sometimes I forget to do that. Make sure the destination is set. Otherwise, it won't work. Let's hit play again. And there we go. The sound icon is a little bit off-centered. I think it should be pushed over to the right, but I'm not going to make too much of a gripe about that. All right, so that's our, what do you call, our interaction there for that. So now what we'll do is create a component out of all this stuff. So I'm going to select everything and then deselect the main container. So now we have all these items, about 5 items selected, and we're going to right-click, Make Component. All right, so the default state is going to be with this, where this is a just white background. So I'm going to double-click into here, and we're going to take our rectangle 160, and we're going to take the opacity down all the way. That's our default state. Next, we're going to hit a plus on a hover state, and we'll just call that hover state. And then we're going to change our rectangle 60 back to opacity 100. Yay. All right, so now if we go and play this, let me change this to default, and we hover over it, there we go. So we want to we have to change the prototype a little bit for this. When you're doing hovers on something like this and you have a bunch of them, I described this in my video a couple days ago. I like to use not auto animate for it because the animation is a little bit wonky when you have a list of items that have hovers on them. So I just like to do transition with animation none, and there we go. So let's hit play again, and now it's instant and it works. Awesome. So this works as well. It's embedded. Okay, so now let's go ahead and I'll go back to design. We're going to, we'll repeat grid this like 4 times. Yeah, right around there, looks good. And now one thing that's annoying, let me take this and ungroup the grid. One thing that's annoying is we have these, let's see here, these component states that are already created for us. And right now we're on default state. Let's change this title to something like all right. Okay, that's the name, whatever. If we go back to the component and we choose hover state, you have to specify it again. It's kind of frustrating. Same thing with anything else that's in the layer. I'm not sure if they plan on making this a little bit easier or something, yeah, a little bit easier to deal with. But the track lengths, I'm not going to specify that and sit here and try to adjust all of these. I'm just making up stupid names. These aren't real names. Ain't nothing but a thing. So stupid. All right, so again, I'd have to sit here adjusting these for each of the different states. Kind of annoying. Actually, it's really annoying. Maybe there's a better workflow so that I can avoid that, having to do that. I'll do it one more time for the track above, and then we'll be done with this annoyingness. So if we go back here, hover state, got to change that too. All right, so now let's make these both back to default states. Oh, there's one more here. This has to go to 3. Okay, there we go. So now if we play this, they all work. Now, of course, you could do something like this. Okay, well, that doesn't work anyway, so that's good. Okay, whatever. So it's not like a perfect example of a prototype working correctly. Why is that like that? We have a massive amount of space between these elements. If I take this and move this over, here, actually, let's move these over. There we go. That's a lot better. So here's what theirs was, how their track listings are versus mine, which I don't know, maybe I'm partial, but I think it's a lot better. All right, so now the last thing we have to do is this section down here, which is in terms of having these 2 pause buttons right here, depending on where they're at in the track list. I mean, they could be right next to each other like they're demonstrated here, and it just doesn't look that good. And it's redundant, really. I mean, the way they're designed, at least. Plus, we have 2 different designs. One's a real rounded pill type of container, and this is slightly like a square with slight beveled edges. So we're going to change things up and make it look like it's not so redundant. I understand why they have it, just to have like a main area where you can also pause, which we're going to have as well, but we can design it differently. First thing I want to do is, I duplicated the background. We're going to change the background color probably to this blue right here. So now we have kind of sort of 3 different colors, or 3 different areas of the design. We have the header, the main section, and then the play area down here. So right here, what we'll do is have icons. Actually, yeah, what we'll do is have icons for this section. I already created these icons, and because I'm pressed for time, I'm just going to paste these in. And the colors aren't right because I was using a slightly different color for these. So what I'm going to do is just modify these so that the colors work well based on what I've actually chosen. So we'll come up here. There we go. So we add that to our swatches, and now these colors are going to work a lot better. There we go. So now what I've done is I created a different play button. But when these are played, like one of these are played, it's going to have a sound icon. It's not going to have a pause button like this would have. All right, so the next section is right here where I have the progress bar. So you could do progress bar, but there's, if you know anything about SoundCloud, they have a really cool way of they show their currently playing tracks, and it's like a sound wave. So that's what we're going to do. Again, that's one of these elements that I'm not going to sit here and design just because it's going to take a while. Especially, it's very kind of tedious. So I'm going to paste that in as well, and I'm going to put it right here. Again, we have to change the color of this. I'm going to use this color. We can see how much interesting this makes it look already. And I'm also going to put in the start time, the current time of the track duration, which is left aligned right here, and then right aligned as well. I like how they've done that. That works. That's not a big deal. So now we'll take... let's see, we'll take that. Where did that go? Let me duplicate this out and pull it. Oh, I hate how you can't do that. You can't pull elements out of a component, like out here. Oh well, I'll just do it from scratch. All right, so I'm gonna put 0, like 45. And for this, we're gonna make this, because it's important that they see it and it contrasts well enough, we're going to make it lighter. I'm going to do like 14 for that, or yeah, for the size. And actually, this seems like it's a little bit too big, but maybe that's just because this area, everything else, you don't want to go more than 14, or less than 14 rather. I'm going to make this a little bit bigger. Make sure everything's centered up here. Oops, I duplicated that by accident. Push this over here. This is going to be like 539. And then I also have, they had 3 other icons, and they were kind of large, and I decided just to not give them as much prominence and importance, because these are the main, oops, I didn't do something right over here. Let me take this. There we go. So these are the main buttons that the probably use, and then the other buttons are kind of secondary. So I designed those slightly different so that there's, in terms of visual hierarchy, they're not quite as important. So I'm just going to paste those in right here. That's center aligned, and they fit perfectly. Like that. So I had a plan to make this a whole component. Actually, I'm going to try to do that. So what we're also going to do is, actually what I'm going to do is I'm going to copy an entire component. Actually, no, I'm not. I'm going to show you guys how to do this and we'll be done. So what we're going to do is when somebody clicks on this, it's going to change into a pause button, but it's also going to play, it's going to show this being populated. It's a little bit tricky, so I hope I can do this well enough. So, first what we're going to do is we're going to I'm trying to think of the best way to do this. Yeah, we're going to duplicate this layer. So we have 2 copies of it. And then what we're going to do is we're going to take a rectangle and draw it out just around there somewhere. And then we're going to take this and this element, the duplicated version. We're going to right click and choose mask with shape. Also, we're going to go to that mask and we're going to change this union color to white. See that? So now we've created this, but we want to animate this in when this play button is clicked. So here's how we do this. All right, it's a little bit tricky. First, we need a play icon of sorts. Oh, and by the way, this was a component already. Let me get in here. I'm going to right click and unlink component. All right, so now it's just it's not a component, it's just a group. And this group is just, you know, oh, there we go. We got to delete that too. Oh, we have the pause button as well. So this is what the pause button will look like when it's played. So you want to design that separately. I'm going to get rid of the meter. Okay, so we have a play and a pause. We hide the play, you can see that. Okay, so what we want to do is we want to take this mask group 1. We're going to let's see here. We want to put it in the default state before it's played. So before it's played, there's no progress, right? So what we need to do is get into our rectangle, which serves as our mask, and we're going to move that out like that. All right, so now we're going to take this button, and notice it says play component. I'm going to just ungroup these. So we have our play and our pauses underneath it, and then we also have our mask 1 group. We're going to right click now, and we're going to choose to make component. All right, so now if we were to try to play this, you would get a cursor icon right here. You only want the cursor icon in the play. So what you do, you open up that component, you take mask group 1, and we hide it. All right, so that's our default state. Now we're going to hit plus, and we're going to add a new state. We're just going to call this one play. So when you click play, what's going to happen is this is going to change to a pause button. So what we could do is just take the opacity out of here, and that's the only thing we want to happen during this state when you hit play. After play, we want this to start playing over here, so we're going to have another state in our component. Next, we're going to hit plus. This time we only have to do 2 different types of states that we can initiate through triggers, which are tap and hover. If they had time, that would be awesome. They're going to be adding that. Somebody confirmed to me, so it's on the roadmap. So we're just going to add new state. Oh no, we're going to add. I just deleted the whole thing. Let me undo that. There we go. We're going to add a hover state, and when it's hovered over, which it will naturally be hovered over when you click play over this anyways, it's going to start a third animation. So the hover state, we go back into here and we go to mask group 1, we show it, and then we also move it we move our mask wherever, you know, we want it to start or end, just to demonstrate what it looks like. All right, so we're going to see if this thing is working. We go to component, default state, play state, and then after play, this happens. Now we have to go to prototype and make this whole thing work. So let's see, we go to default, and this should not be a hover interaction. This should be, I hope this is going to work, because this can all be kind of confusing here. The trigger, let's see here, should be tap, transition, it goes to play, and we don't want auto animate, transition. This thing is acting a little bit funky. Then, oh, there, how can I remove this interaction? Okay, there we go. Just hit delete. So then you hit play. This is going to be a hover-based interaction, and it's an auto animate. And the max you can go is 5 seconds, and it's going to go to the hover state. Hover state is when you tap it, it's going to go back to the default state. Tap, hover, tap. Okay, let's see if this works. If this works, I'm going to be surprised. So here's what we do. Play, and there it goes. Now I think it's going to screw up, maybe. Yeah, for some reason it goes back and forth. But if it goes back again, so it's not perfect, clearly, it will stop doing that. I didn't have enough time to figure out, you know, why it was doing that. It is kind of strange it's doing that. But it's not exactly perfect. So kind of frustrating, but nonetheless, it does deliver the point. So play, this is hover, auto animate for 5 seconds. This is tap, auto animate. No, it shouldn't be automate, it should be transition. Sometimes I find that you make changes here and it may not even work, or it doesn't save your changes. So I think it might be a little bit wonky. Let's try that again. Hit play. No, go back to default state, hit play. And there it goes. Okay, so then in order, yeah, okay. And then you press play and it goes back. So it's pretty close, but it's not like perfect. But that's the whole point. So now we can hover over these things. We can hit play. Ideally, it would also play this down here because that's how it would work. But because of the limitations currently with Adobe XD and the prototyping, you can't make another component start another component animation. Hopefully they would add that down the line. But still, we can get relatively close now with these new features. And plus, we don't have all these artboards. So this is our previous example right here. Here, let me get things moved over just so we could see. This is the before, and here is the after. All right, I think it's much better in my opinion. All right, so I am pressed for time. I have to go. So hopefully you guys enjoyed that. Where's the chat at? And I will see you guys real soon. When is my paid UI course dropping? Again, it's going to be the beginning of the year. I just can't give any more details than that. So yeah, this design, the old design needed more white space. I don't think this one needs that much white space. I mean, this is pretty decent. I mean, you could say maybe around here, but yeah. All right, I gotta stop talking. I have to go, and I will see you guys later. Goodbye.